We are back on Morning Line talking about the Community Oversight Board. With us, two members of Community Oversight Now. They're not board members, but they're in the group that really helped drive the election of that board. It's Nick Caven and Arnold Hayes. Thank you both for coming on. I didn't know if either of you had a comment just on what he said. I mean, Greg was in support of it, the plan, and in his mind, it's because of these shootings again. You say it's more than just that.
Absolutely. And also I wanted to add, because he did mention a Hamrick case, and basically there was a fleeing felon, you know, from police officers, but that is also one thing that the board would actually look at. They would look at each case and they would say, okay, what should be the procedure? You know, what should happen in that particular case? And the board, after doing their analysis and investigation, they may make some recommendations on something in the future. To
make it so it's dealt with better in the future.
Yes, yes. So that is one of the powerful things that the board is responsible for also.
Let's go next to Ann. Good morning, Ann.
Good morning.
Hi.
First, I want to reiterate that this was a 30-year process. This started in the 70s. Nashville has one of the strongest boards in the country, which is why the FOP has poured more money in the last 6 weeks than the one-year funding that will pay for all administrative positions over the course of 1 year for the Community Oversight Board. The other thing I want to point out is it will do more than police officers on the street. Parents have never had a voice for school resource officers. Their job description has been protected, and what they do within the schools has always been protected by the chief of police. Parents will now have a voice when their child is manhandled within the school building, because it is written into the bylaws and the codes of the Community Oversight Board. This is a first. I know, because for 18 years I worked side by side with school resource officers who, when they walked into the building, could pick and choose what they wanted to do. When school shootings occur, they also can pick and choose, which is why we had a massacre, and why when a shooting occurred less than a year ago, an officer stood outside a building and didn't go in to assist. Parents in Nashville will no longer have to worry about that, because it is one of the small things that is being overlooked by the parents of Nashville. This is an important component of this board.
Okay, yeah, and of course the shooting was not something that happened here in the Nashville area, but yeah, there's been shootings in Florida, of course, and in other states. And yeah, so with that component, I hadn't heard that or thought about that with regard to parents and SROs. I guess they're part of law enforcement, so certainly if there was a complaint on an SRO, the COB could look at that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Is that something that you had heard that was needed? I mean, I hear Ann saying it there, but was that, a lot came up. You know, the shootings thing was at the top of the list, but what else?
I wouldn't say not as much.
Yeah, it wasn't at the
maybe
top of the list,
a small amount, but we also heard, you know, that there are a lot of police officers that really feel that they're not being properly treated, you know, when it comes to different complaints, and it's not fair. So they have actually voiced different things that they would actually like to bring to the board.
Like the way that they were dealt with because of complaints within the department.
Yes. Right. Yes.
Okay, and so these are folks that maybe, while they may have confided in you as being supportive or not, you know, at the same time they're represented by the FOP, which was against it. But they...
Yes. But they came to us, and, you know, and of course...
I said, look, I don't want to go public, but I want you to know I support what you're doing.
Yes. Yeah. We had numerous police officers do that, and former police officers.
Okay, let's go next to Reverend Fuzz. Reverend Fuzz, good morning.
Hey, Nick, I got a couple of questions.
Sure.
First, I want to say that I was not a person in support of the Oversight Board until I saw the commercials on Channel 5 about how the people who were pushing this were crooks, and they were just trying to put their friends in political favors At that point, I knew those commercials were lies, and I said, okay, somebody's trying to do this. I'm going to support this. And then when I see the legislature trying to overturn the 3-to-1 will of the people, that was kind of disgusting. What I want to ask now is, maybe you know, Nick, or the guest, what percentage of our police officers are part of the FOP? What percentage of them actually, well, it doesn't matter about them living in Davidson County, but how many, because I'm hearing that most of them do not belong to the FOP. Does the FOP really represent police department? And that's kind of, I want to get at that FOP. And then the other question was this: how many people, Nick, in your audience can ask themselves, do I know or have I met face-to-face interpersonally a person who's a member of the police department? Am I just judging them from television and from a distance? Do I know policemen? Have I been to Citizens Academy? Have I been to a police training or leadership meeting? Have I participated? That's kind of where I'm going. Thanks, man.
Hey, thank you, Reverend. I don't know the answer to, and I guess we could probably find out. Do you guys have any inkling? Again, the FOP is not here representing themselves. I don't know what percentage of the Metro Police Department are members of the union or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
We can check on that.
But I think he made a good point that the FOP, I don't think truly represents the entire, it doesn't truly represent the entire MNPD force. I would encourage folks to go look at their website. If you look at their officers, they're virtually all white. It's predominantly male. I think to say that the FOP represents all officers is to not understand the composition of our local police department.
And you also have the Black Police Officers Association also, that's an organization there. And I've been to a number of, whether or not it was in court, but you know, yeah, I've looked at almost all the people that were there were basically older white males, you know, not even younger white males. And I can only think of one event. It was one time we were down at the council when the bill failed council that the FOP basically showed up there, but it may have been a couple, 2 or 3 people of color that were in that group.
You know, all right, you hear the FOP, and the police chief himself in recent weeks has actually posted, you know, things on Twitter, Facebook, asking for support and talking about law enforcement and the morale, okay? The morale in fire department, the police department, part of it's salary related, other is that they, I think, probably feel like sometimes that they're being unfairly targeted, all of that. And I think some may perceive the COB as being a negative for them, and others, though, I think may think this gives them some support. What do you think the COB will help with law enforcement morale or hurt it?
I think if it's at least given a fair chance, it will definitely help with morale, because again, if police officers, you know, they're in the community, and the community is basically getting an understanding that they're not getting off with, you know, just really gross misconduct, that they're not getting off with that. It'll be more acceptance of the police, because again, I would be one of the first to say they do have a difficult job, you know, to do. But again, it's the 1%. It's this small amount that's allowed to get away with things. It's not all police officers, and we know that. Sure. And yeah, that kind of goes to the second question from the Reverend was, I'm trying to think, I'm in the business where obviously I meet law enforcement, talk to them almost every single day, but the average citizen, unless they're in trouble, and that's not the average citizen, how many of them really get to know any law enforcement officers? And again, I don't live in Davidson County, but I'm in Wilson County and Mount Juliet. I've come to know some of them, but what do you think? Do you think that's part of the problem in terms of just the citizens getting to know officers?
I do think a more community policing type model can be effective, where officers live in the community and they know their neighbors, and so they are part of the community. I think that is a possible solution to increase morale and to increase community relations. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's a tough question to answer. I think most people would say the more that there's intermingling there, where they get to the point where they know and respect each other, the better things will be. And one thing I'll say too, because we used a term a while back when we were actually talking about the COB, a trust building bridge. A bridge is there. The opportunity is there
to build trust, but it's not necessarily a guarantee that trust will be built. But the opportunity is there to allow trust to be built. And you know, when you're in a town where you try to get a community oversight board and you're advocates for a board, and you find out that you're even being surveilled, surveillance is being used on you with things like your social media and stuff like that, and you know, I mean, it's like, does that make where you really don't trust? You know, now that wasn't necessarily all police officers, but that was definitely something that was done by the Fraternal Order Police. You know, so I'm just saying, we really have to do better. We can do better, Nashville. That's what I would say. We can do better than that. But this board is something that is definitely going to actually help that, allow us to have that trust building bridge.
Let's go to Mario. Hi, Mario. Good morning, Mario.
Good morning, sir.
What's on your mind?
My first comment is police are not allowed to go into Muslim communities. Now, people of color are afraid of predominantly white officers, and we know that they are connected, some of them are connected to the KKK. So we need to have people of color policing people of color. That's my comment.
Oh, well, okay. I mean, I don't know. My take is I want a professional police officer. I don't care what their skin color is. Now, I don't know. He may have some, maybe you can speak to this, a point in that, you know, you hear within the African American community that they view law enforcement officers at times because of their past experiences with them differently than perhaps a Caucasian might in their neighborhood. One is going to look at them as, oh, well, here comes a friend who I respect, and the other side is because of past experience, they're going to fear them and not trust them. Would you say that's accurate?
And I don't fear, but whenever I see those blue lights in back of my vehicle, I don't get a nice calm feeling. Okay.
And that's why so many people...
It's an uneasy feeling, because it's like when you've seen situation after situation where a person loses their life off of a traffic stop. Yes, there is an uneasiness there where some people don't experience that. They just get a nice calm feeling. Oh, and the officer is there helping me. See, I don't get that.
You and I have different experiences with it, and you hit it on the head. That's the way I feel. And so, but I try to listen, because I hear so often that, be it the Delkey case or any others, so many people are like, well, just don't run, comply. Now, that situation in a vacuum will have to be looked at individually, but I think I can understand why sometimes those in the African American community, when they're stopped by law enforcement, are a little bit hesitant to comply with everything because they fear what's going to happen.
Okay. And even in the Wild West, they didn't, if a person runs, you don't just shoot them, you know, if they even run. But I can, you know, and I don't know what was going on with Daniel Hamrick's mind, you know, with that. But I think he probably did fear, and he wasn't. I mean, you don't get a second chance. You know, if this officer is out to get him, and and all of a sudden he says, "Okay, I'm gonna stop running," and then he still gets shot and killed.
Yeah, maybe that's
he made the decision that it was best for him to run for whatever reason. Now, I'm not saying guilt or innocence, but it's just it's suspect. You know, there.
Well, that's, and I want to talk more about that case when we come back. We can take a few more phone calls. Our final segment, the number 737-7587. What do you think about the Community Oversight Board? 2 meetings in, making their move, and Community Oversight Now, very much involved with all of this. We'll be back with more right after this.
Okay.